will ultimately give him. The question is, what will that be and when will it come?
So when you have to work with someone, having the most leverage is not always the most important thing. And I think by Jerry trying to win these negotiations with both Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy and create leverage, he's making his team worse.
Yes.
So right now, he's spent much of Mike McCarthy's tenure there undercutting Mike McCarthy's authority. Right now, all he is doing is continuing to deteriorate whatever respect that organization, whatever respect that the players have for him by treating him like, I don't care. He said, we let Zeke go do the same thing.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the backup running back, but he's not the head damn coach of the team.
Right.
So, yeah, you can let players go and shop around. You can't let your quarterback do that, but you could let running backs do that. But having your head coach just sailing in the wind, and then you want – so the best case scenario right now is he goes there and Chicago interviews him and Chicago doesn't want him.
Right.
And now you're like, oh, we want the guy Chicago didn't want.
Right.
Like it's a no-win situation. It doesn't seem to have much foresight.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So if he goes up and doesn't get an offer, and now you're bringing him back more lame than he was before he left, and you're going to say, oh, yeah, he's going to lead our organization.
But you know what?
I won.
But you know what? I won a negotiation.
Yeah.
$1 less million for you.
Yeah. And the problem with all of this is the same thought process that got them to weakening their roster, which ultimately caused McCarthy's job to be much more difficult this season. He didn't go out and get a running back that would have helped the organization. He didn't bolster. He signed him late where they could have had a significant amount more money of cap space to go do. They had won 12 games 3 years in a row, and they fall off this cliff. They basically hand the keys to Dak and go, hey, go win it. That's not how NFL teams succeed, and he's making it so much more difficult.
So look at the way some of these other franchises have handled these situations. Whether you agree with the decisions or not, and we're going to get to them a little bit later, John Mara came out and said, I'm keeping my guys, I believe in them. Even though people are flying planes over my stadium, I believe in them, I'm keeping them. The Dolphins came out, I'm keeping my guys. The Colts came out, I'm keeping my guys. Yeah. Jerry Jones, if he wants to talk, let him talk. He'll talk to them, then he'll come back and talk to me. Like, how can you not have made up your mind on this already? It doesn't make any sense at all.
One of the key questions here is how desperate are the Cowboys and how desperate should they be to keep Mike McCarthy as their head coach? Like, could they do better? And is Jerry Jones thinking along those lines? And to the point, his contract, we knew his contract was expiring in January. We've known this all season long.
Right.
There has been no extension given. Right? So to this, Jerry Jones is at least leaving open the possibility that Mike McCarthy leaves, which tells us that he's at least a little bit okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I could replace you.
Yeah.
And I think he wants him to know that. I mean, you're right. That's not a great.
So do it.
That's right.
So do it. If you walk up to the verge of losing your coach and you're not sweating, he ain't your coach.
That's what I'm saying.
So let him go. Start interviewing people and hire that person because all you're doing is beating up.
Yeah. Just say I'm gonna open up a wide net here. Doug Peterson's of the world, the Mike Vrabels of the world, the Aaron Glenn's, the Brian Flores. We're going to bring everybody in. We're going to interview it. We're going to get better as a team. That's fine, right? Then at least you have direction for your organization. Where you are now is, if nobody else wants him, we might keep him at a cheaper rate. That's going to go win you Super Bowls? That's just not. It just doesn't pass in the locker room.
It's interesting because if we look at these things as relationships, if you're choosing someone that you want to be in a very serious relationship with, it's one thing before you commit to it to say, okay, I'm going to play the field a little bit.
Right.
But they've already been in this relationship.
Yeah.
They are severing it, whether there is actually a contract in place beyond next week or not. Yeah. I hate it when people keep saying, well, it's not really. It's a whole new contract. It's the same damn thing. Of course. You're firing him one way or the other if he's leaving, if he's walking out the door. Now, the other side of this is, what is the old, is it a poem? If you love someone, set them free. If they don't come back, then they were never really yours to begin with. Right. Mike McCarthy, if he gets offered this job in Chicago, should absolutely take it. It is a better job. It is a better situation. And I will tell you exactly why. Because the Dallas Cowboys are doing this, and the Chicago Bears are a team that could very easily be doing this. And when you're a 61-year-old coach, however old he is, like, you want to get on the train that's going in this direction and isn't being led by the guy who can't make up his own mind whether he wants you to be the conductor or not.
See, that's the thing about coaches, is they're not riding trains. Right. They are the conductors of that train.
Right.
So and that's the point. If you believe that there's nothing Mike McCarthy can do to address the fact that the Cowboys train is going this way, and there's nothing he can do do to address the fact that the Bears train is going whichever way it's going, then he's not your coach. Like, none of this matters to me. There's been a track record of Jerry Jones seemingly making decisions that make no sense and are not helping his team in any way. It makes him interesting to us, though.
You sit here every week and talk about how the Bears have sucked for 100 years.
Right.
And it's never getting any better.
Right.
And they keep making – now they're doing this?
Yeah.
No.
They could. They could. They won.
The Cowboys just had like their second losing season in the last 10 years. Like, I don't think there's like a screaming billboard that says the Chicago job is better than the Dallas job. I also don't understand how all of a sudden Mike McCarthy has choices. Like, he's not been offered the Bears job. He hasn't actually been offered the Cowboys job. And it's possible he never gets offered either of them. So, yeah.
Listen, if Rex gets the Jet job, McCarthy's probably sitting here on Monday. That's probably what ends up happening. No, here's what I mean by that.
Right.
What I mean by that is if you took the names and the history out of it, and you just look at the players that are on one team and the players that are on the other team, I think the players that are on the Chicago team are younger, they're cheaper. They didn't just spend $1 trillion on a quarterback. They've got him on a rookie contract. Yeah. They get the right coach in there. This kid, Caleb Williams, all of a sudden goes in this direction. They've had terrible coaching there. I mean, unimaginably bad coaching in Chicago for the last few years. I think that they're the right coach away from potentially having something good. Well, that I don't know.
I think that we need to make sure that we italicize, highlight, and enlarge the font of if. Right. When you say if. Because, the situation is right. If their quarterback turns into what we thought he was, that's a whole different. I'd rather have a high-priced quarterback that's proven than a cheap quarterback that is not.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's get to that then. Okay. Because you and I would phrase that differently. I would say they need the right person to make Caleb that, or to guide Caleb into that, or whatever the right term is. And as for whether or not Mike McCarthy is the right person, both Dan Orlovsky and Mina Kimes had pretty strong feelings about that on NFL Live yesterday.
Mike McCarthy's scheme, as presently constructed, is so far behind 2024 football. If you want to hire Mike McCarthy because you like his organizational skills and his leadership skills and his ability to relate to his players, have at it. But he better come with a new age offensive system and a new age offensive coordinator.
I just don't know how you can watch the Cowboys offense this year and feel good about that offense for your young quarterback, especially because the most important thing for the Chicago Bears, the only thing, you have to make Caleb's life easier. And whenever I watch the Cowboys, I did not think this makes the quarterback's life easier.
Is that right? Is that part of it right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're being a bit harsh on Mike McCarthy. Like, he's not running the wing T. But I do agree that his offense is suited for a quarterback that's super talented and knows what he's seeing. And it's not going to give
me an example.
Aaron Rodgers is
so he's still running the offense they ran in Green Bay all those years?
Dak Prescott's a great example. Yeah, I think he is. It's about, we're going to run our plays. You need to decipher the defense, and you need to be on time and accurate, which I think might be good for Caleb Williams. But I think what Mina and Dan are talking about is he doesn't create any easy answers for you. Like, you don't get to take a play off. He's not going to scheme up something wide open for you. He's going to say, these are basic concepts that work against every coverage. You need to figure out the coverage, and you need to throw an accurate pass.
They're talking about, like, what Cliff Kingsbury did for Jaden Daniels, what Sean Payton did for Bo Nick. Like, they're talking about that, an offense designed to make the quarterback's development and ultimately his life easier.
So I played under McCarthy, so I can tell you this about their offense, and I played in the system very similar to what he wants to run. He's trying to get all the decisions to be made before the snap. So what you do is you limit this extra play, this move around, right? You're going to have, where the quarterback has to roll out and buy time, but it's usually going to be deep shots once that happens. But he wants you to know when you get to the line of scrimmage, you've assessed what they're going to give you, and the ball's coming out. So you're not taking undue sacks. You're not turning it over because you're surprised by something. But that requires a quarterback studying that and understanding what that looks like. And to be honest with the Caleb Williams, it would limit some of the problems that Caleb Williams has had because it is very structured. So it's not complicated when it comes to that.
He has the arm talent that if he is capable of getting the pre-snap stuff right, that offense could work for him. But I think what Jeff is saying is you need to have all the answers before the snap. I think what Dan and Mina are saying is there are some offenses where you don't need to have any answers.
They're going
to be some plays where it's like, all right, I don't care what they're doing over there.
This is where it
Turn around. Put the ball out here, bring it back. There's going to be a man running over there butt naked. Throw him the ball.
Right.
And that is a great offense to be a part of.
Yeah.
Who coaches that?
Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. So that's the guy. That's who I want to hire if I'm doing that. So let's. We're a little bit later. We'll dive more deeply into whether Caleb Williams is the guy that you want to coach. Is this really a better option and all the rest of that? But there's other huge news that we need to get to here. Graziano, let's run the hurry up. Packers, Eagles coming up this weekend. There's a lot of stuff here, beginning with Jordan Love.
Yeah, he hurt his right elbow Sunday, didn't come back into the game. Matt LaFleur said after that he could have, that they were playing it safe. And Jordan Love said after that he expected to be ready for this game next week. We'll see how the practice week unfolds. But as of now, I don't get the sense that there's high concern for Jordan Love missing this game. Unfortunately, one of his wide receivers, Christian Watson, will miss this game. He suffered a torn ACL in Sunday's game, so he's obviously out for the year and has a long recovery ahead of him. The Packers have a lot at wide receiver, but they and a lot of their opponents believe that Christian Watson is different, that he's a field stretcher, and that will remove something in terms of what they're able to do on offense. So tough break for him, obviously, and for them. And then we talked about this last week. Jalen Hurts, still in the concussion protocol, has not practiced since leaving that game against Washington on December 22nd. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, then I think there's some reason to be a little bit concerned about what happens this week. He is making progress through the concussion protocol, but obviously it has not been rapid progress, or he would have been back on the practice field by now. It's worth keeping an eye on here as the week goes along.
I think we largely ignored this last weekend because they were resting so many people anyway that we just thought to ourselves, well, he probably wouldn't have played in this game. But that's not the way concussion protocol works.
Exactly.
That's not the way, it's not like he had, an ankle.
Right.
So I want to ask you the questions directly as I can. Am I living in a world where the Eagles might play this playoff game this weekend against Green Bay without Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, because until you're cleared through the concussion protocol, you're not. To your point, you can't play through it, right? It's not like, I would have played last weekend if it was a playoff game. No, he wouldn't have because he wasn't cleared. He was at their walkthrough on Saturday, which is a good sign that he's out there at practice, but he still has to get some practice work. And then once you start getting practice work, they assess you every day in terms of did you have a recurrence of symptoms? And if you did, you're back to the beginning of the protocol.
Yeah. It's also kind of concerning in part because he's still in this protocol, and if you want him to play, you're going to need him to practice. If he practices this week, and then you're trying to catch up on the rust that you might have, so he's going to take all the reps. And then you put him out in the game, and something else happens in that situation, and then you're back to where you are. So there's something to be said for, having a definitive understanding. Either he's going to be there or he's not going to be there. One of the tougher situations is, what if he passes concussion protocol on Thursday or Friday? Then what do? He hasn't practiced earlier in the week.
That's the point, right?
Play, right? You're not going into.
We can't know that.
No. I mean, if he passes Thursday or Friday.
No. I'm saying he passes then.
But how will he play?
After the weeks of practice, or after the days of practice have already been passed.
Right. How will he play? That part I get. But you're not playing Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee if Jalen Hurts is available for you regardless.
My understanding of the concussion protocol is he can't take all the reps tomorrow, right? He has to get back out on the field, light work, non-contact work. Obviously, it's all non-contact work if you're the quarterback. But he has to have a lighter day of practice, clear that, and then get on the field Thursday and hopefully do more.
So this is a weird way for me to ask you this question. How big a deal should I be making of this right now in my mind as I'm considering this game?
A massive deal. I mean, this is the difference between, you saying, hey, this is the best team in the NFC, and this team could be eliminated week 1 of the playoffs. It is a massive change. So when you think about Jalen Hurts and what this offense is and his ability to run the ball, let's not miss the fact that tush push, all the different things they can do in the red zone, it's all predicated on him taking hits. There is no play in football where the quarterback runs, he's not getting hit. So all of that matters. It is a massive deal. It's a massive point of interest, not only for Eagles fans, but for the NFC as a whole. This is a team that is loaded to bear when they're healthy. Missing your quarterback because of a concussion is a massive deal this late.
The point that you were making there about how their offense is also designed around, it's not an offense where you can say, we'll just call less or fewer quarterback design runs. No, this offense is predicated. It got its launch even pre-Saquon Barkley Barkley because of his ability to run the ball and not slide.
That's
his
right.
ability to get up in there and take these aggressive
let's put this to the red zone. We just saw Minnesota and Detroit play one of the most important regular season games in NFL history. Their red zone is the only difference in those two teams, right? That Sam Darnold couldn't complete a pass in the red zone. Now you're taking away what Philly does in the red zone that makes them so effective and so efficient. That's a massive.
It's not just red zone. It's red zone and 4th and short.
Right.
Well, that's great.
I'm bringing that up because it ties into this. It's
That's
like
right.
red zone is his running ability. Fourth and
down.
short.
That's right.
Is also his ability to put his head down and drive the pile, which is dangerous. So.
I got to tell you, I was looking at the screen a minute ago. We had our analytics, and again, they take into account every number. They can't tell you what's going to happen, but they're usually pretty close to right. They only give the Eagles a 51% chance to win the game.
Oh, it's a pick 'em.
That would equate, but that's not what it is at ESPN Bet. Embo, was that bet up to 5 yesterday?
Boosted, baby.
Boosted, baby. 4.5. I mean, our analytics are basically saying this is a toss-up game.
Yeah.
Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. Because of the Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts had come in, all else being equal, and he's feeling good, I would have said the Eagles, no doubt. I think they're the best team in the NFC. It is a problem when you're talking about your starting quarterback not practicing the week of the playoffs.
Packers play good defense, especially against the run. Like, this isn't an easy game for this is a Packers team that won a playoff game last year.
Yeah.
So if they're healthy, if their quarterback's playing, then I would not
injury,
overlook
though, is
them.
going to be massive for them too. Not miss that one either.
Eagles win.
Yeah,
I think they got a good chance of winning with Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't go so far.
You know what's amazing? Offensive line and running game.
I've been telling you that.
Himbo!
I've been telling you that for a long time.
Does the man who always has the best answers have any solution to the nosedive his team is riding into this postseason? We're talking Steelers, plus the star quarterback who should be on upset alert this weekend, and it's not the one you think we mean. We're talking about it next. Let's get up on ESPN.
Don't got to be 8-man football. Like all the linebackers left the field, and they just let this. I mean, this is a 5-5 40, right? That's 5-5.
They were not expecting him to do that.
Knees up.
But watch the DB come in late. He's doing like a quick waddle right here. Right here. Look at him. Look at him. He runs like I run. I mean, that's the same. Like, we didn't have any smooth.
It up,
it's like real fast.
Wasted movement.
North Dakota State wins its 10th football championship subdivision title.
Congrats.
Congratulations. Coming up, Mike Tomlin's team is in free fall. What if he doesn't have the solution? Could there be crazy things about to happen in Pittsburgh? We'll get to that. And for sure, crazy things are about to happen here. Jeff is handing out pancakes.
Let's go.
Box of the week. Coming up, get up, ESPN.
The rest of you guys got 3 more years to win titles. Vic, take them all.
And it ain't going to be Chicago doing it either. But anyway, the Bulls would go on to win this game for whatever that is worth. Okay, let's play a game of fact or fiction from the world of football. Here we go, Jeffrey. If I said Josh Allen and the Bills are on upset alert against Denver, is that fact or fiction?
This is fact. I'm shocked saying this is fact. If you think about Denver, they've had 63 sacks. They get after you on defense. Bo Nix is playing extremely well. Broncos country, I got them right a couple weeks ago when I talked about Joe Burrow. They still hate me, but I'm good with you there. And then think about this. Sean Payton, I've lost the Super Bowl to Sean Payton. He will pull out all stops. Onside kicks, understand, it's all
anymore.
Onside kicks don't exist anymore.
I'm just saying all
He's
the
making a
stops.
point. Yeah.
I understand
The man is scarred. They onside kicked him in the Super Bowl. Let him.
I am scarred.
Yeah, well, if they had declared
I've
it.
forgotten all about it, Hank Basket. I don't remember any part of it.
Okay, so let's get into this here for a minute. Because every person I had here yesterday said the same thing you're saying to me now. Greeny, this is a tough spot, bad draw for the Bills. First, I think they're like a 9-point favorite. Second of all, the last 2 weeks before this, they just pitched a shutout. This Denver defense, everyone's telling me, is so good. And look, I have great respect for their season, their coach, and everything. Everyone's telling me how great this defense is. They just played against no one. Kansas City would have
that team was
forfeited
not trying
game.
to win the game.
The previous 2 weeks, they gave up over 30 points to the Chargers and to Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati will score points. You telling me Josh Allen isn't going to put up points against this team?
63 sacks. How many of those were against a guy 6'5", 250?
We're not trying to dig, we're trying not to dig too deep in those numbers, Ross. This is TV, okay? It's TV.
I'm just saying, we'd get Hembo to run those.
I think the point is that the 9 points suggest that it shouldn't be close. I think the idea that they will have a close game is realistic because of how good or how talented the Broncos defense is in their ability to play man coverage. When you can play man coverage, you have the flexibility to do a lot of things defensively without a kind of a standout X guy that's like top 5 in the league that will break that down, which we saw when they went up against Cincinnati. We saw what happened when you had T. Higgins going up against Riley Moss. It's like it's a hard thing to do man to man, but I don't know that I don't know.
They don't have a T. Higgins.
Yeah, they don't have that guy. So I think that's what people imagine is like, all right, we can play tight man coverage, we can load the box, we can blitz, we can do all different things to give Josh Allen trouble. And that Bills defense isn't perfect. Like people can run the ball against it. I mean, they're nowhere close to perfect. That Bills defense has weaknesses also.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Let's not get crazy. We're not betting palatial estates on it.
Okay, fair enough.
But it is going to be tougher than people think.
All right, we'll see.
Boosted?
Josh Allen we're not boosting that one, baby.
No boost.
Josh Allen might win the MVP this year. If he doesn't, it's going to be Lamar Jackson. He's the subject of our next one. Neat. If I said it is Super Bowl or bust for Lamar Jackson right now, is that fact or fiction?
Absolutely fact. I guess it depends on what you mean by bust. But Lamar Jackson is at that level. There are quarterbacks in this league that get to the level that have accomplished so much that getting a playoff win, getting to a championship game, like this doesn't matter for him, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. These guys that are at that level is what anytime they enter the playoffs, that is what their mindset should be. So it's ridiculous how early in his career he's gotten to the point where there's nothing he can do short of winning a Super Bowl that will impress us at this point, but he is there.
It's not about, to me, it's not even about impressing us. To me,
validate his career.
I think we can start putting him in a historical perspective if he wins one. That's what he's missing. Because Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, who are the other two contenders to the throne of being the great rival of Patrick Mahomes, if you add them together, they've won 0 MVPs.
That's right.
Now, Allen may win one this year, and that will change that. But Lamar Jackson is a 2-time league MVP. Yeah. He's put up numbers that we've literally never seen before. He's played the game in ways that we've literally never seen before. But we can't start putting him in the discussion with the great quarterbacks of all time until he, fair or unfair, till he does that. Yeah, and that's the one thing he's missing.
This is the Peyton Manning argument, right? As you get so good in the regular season and you're so dominant. Now, they played obviously totally different, but the domination that he's had in regular seasons, but it matters. When you play, quarterbacks are going to be discussed based on titles, not just.
So let me ask you, you're the perfect, because you were there for that.
Yes.
And I remember that. I mean, on Mike and Mike, we're having those conversations all the time. Peyton can't win the big one, all that kind of stuff. Like, they'll say all the right things. Peyton said all the right things. Lamar will say all the right things. Down deep inside, how much did that bother him when people would say that?
Eats him up. There's no way you're a competitor and it doesn't eat you up. The good thing about Lamar Jackson, he doesn't shy away from it. You know, it's a different time media-wise. You know, Peyton had to kind of carry the flag of, oh, no, it's team game. But inside, it's eating you up. Lamar Jackson makes no mistake. I got to go win a Super Bowl. We're going to go win a Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs. I don't care about an MVP. I care about winning a Super Bowl because that's what matters.
The interesting thing about those comparisons is very similar reasons why I think that they struggled, and we've had this conversation before, is like in what the Colts used to do didn't always carry over to the playoffs because they didn't have the flexibility to do that. And I think that's been the truth for Lamar Jackson until last year. Yeah. Last year was kind of the first year with the Monken offense, and then this year will be the second year in it, and you see how much better the offense is gotten. It's hard to come up with those excuses going forward, especially when he's had, this is 3 legitimate shots, including this year. I think he's had 3 really good shots at winning a championship.
I think there are plenty of reasons to believe this year's Ravens are better suited to win playoff games. We'll see how it happens. They were better coming from behind this year. Yep. They can beat you in a couple different ways, and his numbers this year are best of his career.
We'll make sure Zay Flowers is healthy for them, too. Oh, yeah, he's got the best numbers of anybody's career.
Don't talk about Derrick Henry, though.
Well, and that's the big difference there, too. Now, the team they'll play in this opening round of the playoffs, of course, is the Steelers. So, Graziano, I'll come to you. With the way this team has fallen off a cliff, if someone said Russell Wilson needs to win this game to save his job, to be the quarterback next year, would that be fact or fiction?
Oh, it's fact. I mean, look, there's nothing really compelling them to bring him back. He's there on a one-year minimum salary deal. There was never any commitment beyond this year. And if what happens at the end is they fall apart because he started playing poorly, then they'll just go find whatever next year's Russell Wilson type solution is. He's in the mix. I think he's a guy that they've liked, but I don't think there's any sure thing to be back there at all, especially if they are one and done in the playoffs again.
Well, and there's a lot on the line for the Steelers. So on Sunday NFL Countdown, when Shefty was running through the list of all the coaches that he thought would be fired and wouldn't be fired, I think underneath all of that got buried a fascinating thing he said about Mike Tomlin. Listen.
I think that there are going to be teams out there that have watched the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers season has ended and wonder whether they should call the Steelers to see if they should inquire about whether the Steelers would be willing to move on from Mike Tomlin and move him to another organization. I don't think Pittsburgh will do that. That has not been what they've been about, and there's no indication that they would. But I do think there are teams wondering whether they should lob in a call just to see if they could stir Pittsburgh's interest.
So that got very interesting. Shefty pointed out yesterday that on McAfee's show, I believe, that Tomlin has a no-trade clause in his contract. But the reality is those things are sort of fungible anyway, because if he wants to go somewhere, then they're not trading him to a place he doesn't want to go.
Right.
You said an interesting thing to us in our meeting. If somehow Mike Tomlin were to become available,
oh my gosh,
what would happen?
Well, the teams would fire. I mean, like all of a sudden, like Brian Daboll's probably not safe, right? Like is Shane Steichen, like this is a solution that immediately jumps to the front of the line. Like, I know there are complaints in Pittsburgh about how the lack of playoff success. The way this guy manages an organization, the way this guy coaches a team, he would be everyone's top choice immediately if he were to become available. That's why they extended him last offseason. And to Adam's point, I don't think the Steelers would entertain this.
He's a guy that shows up and makes everyone's job a lot easier, and especially the owner of the team. And so, I think we spend a lot of time on this show talking about the way that owners communicate their message. You hire Mike Tomlin, you can shut up and disappear. He becomes the face. He becomes the culture of the organization. It's very much like what Dan Campbell has done in Detroit. Mike Tomlin's been doing that for a long time. Dan Campbell is the flavor of the month, and he deserves all the credit. But I think that teams would get excited for that. The crazy part about this is the idea that the Steelers, who know what they have, would be willing to move on from it. The Steelers organization is different than the Steelers fans. Steelers fans, some of them might be comfortable with that. I can't imagine that the organization would want to move on from Mike Tomlin.
I don't think they would.
Yeah, I agree with you. From a fan's perspective, the way this is playing out is getting old. Yeah. That's the problem. Fans are fanatics for a reason. They love their team, and you haven't won anything in a long time. But let's frame it the right way. The last time I thought they were really competitive playoff-wise was Ben Roethlisberger. I think they started 11-0 or something like whatever that year was.
They lost all the rest of their games and lost their first.
And they were throwing like 2-yard passes that somebody would go. But that was the last time that you really thought. Since then, Mike Tomlin has been getting a team that's just kind of okay to the playoffs. And the problem is there's 7 teams on each side. Those teams are usually going to lose. And so you get to the playoffs and you lose and everybody blames you. But they haven't been good enough as a football team, apart from coaching, to go win those games.
I'll just do something fun. Our friend Mark Silverman from Chicago gave us this idea. Put up C28 if you would.
Okay.
So I'm going to C28. Now we're going to go to C28.
Yeah.
So we're going to play a quick game. I'm going to show you the resumes of 2 NFL head coaches. Look how similar.
Yeah.
They have the same number of 10-win seasons. The one on the right actually has a little better playoff record. They both won 1 Super Bowl. The one on the left,
I know who it is. Mike Tomlin on the left.
Mike Tomlin.
Mike McCarthy on the right.
the one on the right,
Yeah, got to be Mike.
is Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
Think about the difference in the way.
I played for him for a year. Body type gave it away there, Mike.
Just think about it.
We've seen worse pictures.
Oh, gosh.
Think about the difference in the ways that they are perceived.
Right.
You know, like right now, you just said that if Mike Tomlin became available, every team in the NFL would fire their coach to hire him. And Mike McCarthy, his owner right now, the owner of his team, is saying, "Oh, go interview with anyone you want."
One guy's never had a losing season. Another guy had losing seasons with prime Aaron Rodgers. Like there's definitely a reason for the difference in perception. I think that Mike McCarthy's had better rosters than Mike Tomlin's had over the last, 5 or 6 years and I think he's getting the most out of it.
I don't disagree with that.
I mean, I could blind resume some quarterbacks for you, but when we watch them play, we see how they do it differently. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a high QBR that's all based on play action and someone who's sitting in the pocket and carving the defense.
We'll come back to this. Meanwhile, the college football playoff semifinals are right here on ESPN. Don't miss the action. Thursday night, it's Notre Dame and Penn State in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Friday, it's Ohio State and Texas in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. Both games kick off 7:30 Eastern. Could be the greatest 2 nights of college football we have seen in a very long time. Coming up, will the real Sam Darnold please stand up?
Please stand up.
Please stand up. Was the Vikings quarterback exposed Sunday night in Detroit? Was that a bad game or a bad sign? Meanwhile, Jeff, we got pancakes coming up. Give us a crate.
Going down to Tampa with an offensive line. Themselves apart. Graham Barton, center. You got to love it. We're starting off right here. Little crate. Look at the block back. And listen, watch how he takes this man and just buckles him. Rolls over the top of him. The athleticism for the forward roll. You got to love it. He went to Duke, but I'm not going to hold that against him right now. That is a great block right there. This offensive line, one of the best in the business, all starting with a rookie, Graham Barton. Congratulations.
Let's go.
Back to some real cake. We got some people getting knocked out.
Great. That's okay to say now.
Yeah, I can say it.
Needs Dominique. Can Jaden Daniels lead the Commanders on a deep playoff run, yes or no?
Eventually, not this year. Like, I would say no. As good as he's been, this team is not quite ready to make a deep playoff run. It seems like they've probably reached their ceiling. And you look around the NFC, if they get past the Bucs, like they're going to probably end up going up against the Lions or someone like that. Yeah, I don't see them pulling that one off.
That would be the likelihood. If they beat Tampa, the likeliest scenario is that they would wind up then going to Detroit. Jeff, let's talk about another dynamic young quarterback. How far can Justin Herbert take the Chargers?
They potentially beat Houston this week, and then they play, I think, Kansas City the following week. They're not beating Kansas City. So I think even Houston's going to be a tough one for them. Very similar to what we just said about Jaden Daniels. This team is way ahead of where I thought they would be year one with Harbaugh. Herbert's playing well, but I don't think they have a chance to go on a deep run in the playoffs.
Remember, his one playoff game was a disaster, the huge lead against Jacksonville.
Yes.
And they lost. Speaking of disasters, Graz, you were there as Sam Darnold really had a tough night Sunday against the Lions. Was that a bad game or a bad sign?
I think we have to say bad game. Darnold's had a great year. The Vikings are not in the position they're in without him. They have not been carrying him. He's played well. He was bad on Sunday. The Lions figured it out. Sam Darnold's usually good under pressure. The Lions managed to pressure him in a way that made him play poorly. And I think that says more about the Lions than it does about where the Vikings are.
Do we agree with that? Like, Sam Darnold has been such a great story. This is such a week-to-week league. A week ago, Sam Darnold was everyone's answer at quarterback, right? Every team should go out and try and give him $50 million. Now he has a tough night in the red zone against Detroit, and it's, well, maybe he's really not that good. Did he turn into a pumpkin? All that kind of stuff. What's the answer?
Yeah, I mean, he's had enough of a body of work this season for us to give him a little bit of leeway. But he doesn't have enough body of work, I think, to continue to do that. If he has a bad playoff game, I think that changes the way that we look at him, changes the way that the Vikings go about their decisions, whether they are going to move on from J.J. McCarthy or whether they're going to extend him or give him a franchise deal. So all this matters week to week. But I think that we owe him at least the benefit of the doubt that this particular game was just a tough situation, a tough game plan, and they struggled.
I love the way the league goes, right? You would have thought that Justin Jefferson had handcuffs on the way that they were talking about. There were some wide open throws that they just didn't take, right? Addison was open twice in the end zone, should have been there. He overthrows Jefferson twice where he has clearly beaten his defender and can't get him the ball. Darnold played extremely poorly, and you could just tell as the pressure went, as the game went on, he felt more and more pressure. You saw it in his countenance. The guy just had a bad night, and it's a bad game.
So I was talking to defensive players for Detroit last week, and we talked about this on Sunday Countdown. The plan was we don't want to flush him all the way out of the pocket because he's pretty good on the move and he makes good decisions. We just want to get him a little uncomfortable, make him move off his spot, make him move his feet a little bit. And it seemed like they did, right? I mean, it seemed like that. And then the coverage. Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator. I know the offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson's getting a lot of love on this head coaching circuit. Aaron Glenn should too, and that was a pretty good resume tape.
I think I heard it on the broadcast when he talked about Aaron Glenn was going to be risky and take these shots because Dan Campbell was backing him up. I thought that was a testament to that organization, right? You got two former players. Aaron Glenn obviously had an incredible career as a player, but what this guy is capable of doing on the back end of that defense and just rolling the dice with it and living with whatever the results were, give him a ton of respect.
And so what the results were, just very quickly to touch on this, is that the Lions win in decisive fashion. And the road to the Super Bowl goes through Motown. Are they the favorite in your mind? We've talked so much about Philly lately.
Yeah.
Are the Lions going to the Super Bowl, yes or no?
I mean, Yep.
I'm still on Philly.
Yeah, I'm still on Philly too. Philly's too talented. It's the injuries. I feel it's so disrespectful that we're doing to the Lions.
Injuries are not bothering them. They're figuring it out, and they don't think about who they don't have. They think about who they do have and how to win with them. It's a monster team.
Fanboy.
It's a monster team.
He just spent the week with Dan.
Yes,
Let's go to the pancakes. Pancakes is one of our favorite things.
So let me show you how we're going to get this thing started. We're back, baby! Bam, bam, bam. We're about to crank this up. Let's go. That's how we start this off. Get some of this. It's a thing of beauty. You can't stop us. You can't stop us.
How many thoughts were just spank pancakes on get up?
Can we do one more thing?
I got it. Saturn Down is brought to you by IHOP. Dominique, get us started if you would be so kind.
Hey! Here we go. We're starting out in Broncos country. What are we talking about next?
That's right.
Hey, Quinn Miners, here we go once again. I want you to see him out in space. Oh, yeah. Dump him. Oh, that was my favorite part. Just kept chasing him. The dude's trying to run away. Miners is still bullseyed in on him. He ain't stopping. Keep running.
It's the hair.
Look, he thought he was going to stop. He didn't stop. Picked him up and dumped him on the sideline. You got to love it. This Broncos offensive line has played extremely well, especially downfield. That right there, it's not as good as when you get to just stay on top and look down there, but that's still pretty good. When you throwing his legs above his head, that's always positive. Going to the University of Georgia, Xavier Truss. Watch this right here. You talk about knocking a man. There you go. Oh, he stayed on him for a little extra time. It's a little extra time, right? And look at his body. Sweaty, nasty, staying up. Oh, yeah, I like helmet off. Helmet off. Fox.
He's an athlete, man.
Tell that man to strap that helmet on, dude. Don't be like, there you go. Position of victory for offensive linemen. Gotta love it. 2 cakes for that. Hey, we're finishing this thing up. We're gonna have some fun right here. Check out number 3. One Jennings. Receive that, little man. Hey, he got Thomas all upset. He ain't scared. Now, he didn't get thrown out the next play. But on top of this, I love to see Jennings just getting after people, making sure people understand he is a full participant in blocking. You want to talk about why Shanahan loves him, not just his catching ability. That is nastiness. Look at that. He learned from offensive linemen. Shanahan showed him some film. He followed it up again. Don't get thrown out the next play. But I love what you're doing, Jennings. I love what you got right there.
Oh, the pancakes have been served. Coming up, Mike McCarthy's musical chairs. Do the Bears want him? Does Dallas think he's done? The coaching carousel is spinning out of control. And we'll make sense of it all next. Get up on ESPN.
We need Jennings to stay on there full time. Just full time.
Yeah.
Look at there.
That's
nice.
Nice. Oh, we're locked in.
No.
We're locked in.
One can juggle, one
Playoffs,
cannot.
baby.
Short. Whoa, bro. How short was that?
Short.
The bold Louisiana flavor and crispy crunch of Popeye's signature chicken is the meal your craving deserves. And now you can get 3 pieces for just $5 and make it a meal for only $3 more. Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Son's a sweet dentist on Sock Talk.
Dr. Stafford's a real beauty, and people say he's passionate about dentistry.
Dr. Sales on 33rd Street? You could practically skate there. Booked it.
Sweet.
You've got options. Book now.
I'm certain it's level 5.
Are you for imprint certain?
I'm certain it's level 5.
Certainty matters, like the certainty of 4 Imprint. Your home for high-quality promotional gear, including exclusive items and brands they love. Printed perfectly and guaranteed to arrive on time. To wow your clients, nail your next event, or inspire your team, check out 4.
They've requested an interview with Mike Greenberg. Is the closest I'm ever going to come. to living out what would have been my dream in life. And I cannot tell you how many people think that's me. The number of people on Twitter X who don't read carefully. Incredible. Go look at the comments. It's like, this is why the organization is a joke. They're going to hire a talk show. I mean, it's hilarious how many people think it's me.
I had to change you to Greeny in my phone because I was accidentally texting the wrong guy. Yeah, but seriously, that guy, I mean, Tampa Bay, they got something good going on down there. Like, I'd take a serious look at him.
Hire that man.
It's all fun and games until the GM, he is the GM and things are going poorly. You're not going to think
Twitter X.
You're not going to think it's so cute that people got your big stuff then. It ain't going to be fun then.
Anybody named Mike Greenberg is going to do a great job. I'm telling you right now, hire that man. All right, we're back for another hour of Get Up. We're live from the Seaport. We're brought to you by Grey Goose. We begin with the coaching carousel. It has taken a turn nobody saw coming. The Chicago Bears have requested permission to interview Mike McCarthy for their head coaching job. McCarthy becomes a free agent next week. Until then, Jerry Jones has to give him permission to speak to the Bears. From what we understand, he has not yet officially responded to the request. But here's what he said Sunday about the possibility of McCarthy talking with other teams.
Then I would say, go talk. I really would. Go talk.
So it sounds like
I just let Zeke do that.
Gotcha.
I don't want anybody here. That's not healthy to have somebody around that wants to be someplace else. Really, it's not.
You guys did not like that.
Oh. First of all, the whole attitude of he is the one with the power to sign him.
Right.
He's like, he doesn't want to be here. He can't be somewhere he's not wanted. You haven't let it be known that you want him. So him going out or being offered some other position has nothing to do with what Mike McCarthy wants and everything to do with you. So by you saying, yeah, he don't want to be here, he never said that. You said it by not signing a contract. Give me a break, dude.
Yeah.
Jerry is off the rails. He's off the rails right now.
There's not a requirement that he has to talk as much as he does. And I think he does things that hurt his team because I guess he wants the attention. And for him to say about, I don't want people here who don't want to be here, like I could completely agree with that wholeheartedly. But if I were Mike McCarthy or players on that team, I don't want a coach here that you don't want here, that you forced to coach in a lame duck season and that you are kind of dilly-dallying around making a decision about. Like, that to me is the problem here. The problem isn't that Mike McCarthy is interested in going elsewhere. The problem is that you're playing negotiations games or reality TV with an organization that actually has some good talent and a coach that has a proven track record, and you're making your team worse. Every offseason, you do things to make your team worse.
I think what I'm hearing there is, a guy who's always negotiating, right? Who's always, he doesn't mind doing it in public. And B, maybe a little bit annoyed that, like, over the last couple of weeks, it got out that Mike McCarthy might have interest in going somewhere else. But I keep coming back to your point. So sign him. Like if you want him to be your coach, then do it. Over the past year, there have been ample opportunity to do a contract extension if they wanted to. Jerry Jones wanted it to get to this point for whatever reason, whether that means he doesn't want Mike McCarthy back, whether it means he wants to have him back cheap or I don't know what it is, but there's obviously some reason why there's question about whether Jerry wants Mike McCarthy to be the head coach.
So let's cut to the chase of what really matters from a football standpoint. I didn't love the demeanor of it either. I think there's just something about it that it was kind of insulting. But let's put that aside. The part of it that really matters is what this suggests is that he, the owner and the general manager, the overwhelmingly most important figure in the organization, is not definitive about the biggest decision he has to make. Like, he's not showing you any conviction. It's so performative. Everything they do is a performance. Look at the conviction, whether we agree with it or not. John Mara, convicted. The Dolphins, convicted. The Colts, convicted in the decisions they're making. We may disagree with them. That's fine. But that's the owner's response. It's his right to say, I believe in these guys, so I'm leaving them. Jerry is saying,
Get somebody else a coach. He's
been the coach there for 5 years. I mean, how in the world do you not know yet if you want him back or not?
Your only job is to do things that are in the best interest of your team having success. And Jerry Jones repeatedly does things that are in the best interest of franchise value and in the worst interest of them having success. From the extended negotiations twice with Dak Prescott while undercutting his credibility with the team, doing the same thing with Mike McCarthy. These are unique cases. The quarterback and the head coach, they require you to be delicate with the way that you communicate to them and everyone else. And then he said, we did it for Zeke. And I mean no disrespect to Ezekiel Elliott, but Ezekiel Elliott is not the head damn coach of your football team.
Right.
He's an over 30 running back. Stop it.
Ooh, well, these two things couldn't have anything less to do with each other. For those who don't know what he's talking about, he let Zeke go sign with a team who could play in the playoffs this year.
What that got to do with anything?
Nothing.
That has nothing to do with whether or not he's bringing back Mike McCarthy.
The bottom line is they knew where their position was in during this season after Dak got hurt. All these decisions should have been made. They should have had a conversation. This is what we're going to do. Here's the direction we're headed. Make that call. Make the decision. Again, Jerry, to your point, is doing the same thing to hurt his team.
As a coach and as a player, you are judging me on the results on the field. Stop doing things that make it harder for me to have success on the field and then rolling your eyes and saying, go meet him then after we have an unsuccessful season. Like, that to me is infuriating. It has to be infuriating for the people in that building to watch him repeatedly do things that are hurting their chances of winning and then hold them accountable for the result.
If a general manager said that, we would all lose our mind. If a general manager of a team said that about a coach that had been with the organization for 5 years, a few days after a season that you knew what the end looked like, everybody in the building would be like, what has gone on? This whole thing needs to be taken apart.
Okay, let's try and do the impossible, which is make sense of something that might not make sense. But if it makes sense, it is because he is buying time. It is because he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, which is to say keep Mike McCarthy as a possibility, but see if he can get someone else. Right. Who is that someone else? He has the option right now, Jerry does, of interviewing other people and doing all that kind of stuff while Mike McCarthy is interviewing with Chicago and whatever else, right?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, is that what we think is going on here?
Mike McCarthy's contract expires tomorrow. They have a 1-week negotiating window after the expiration of the contract with McCarthy. But if his contract's expired, yeah, you would think the Cowboys could interview other people.
And he could do that and then still come back to McCarthy like this?
I mean, probably not. That's the issue. The issue is make the decision and move on. If you want a Mike Vrabel of the world, if you want another coach, if you want Ben Johnson or whoever the hot name is going to be, then go. You understand?
Ben Johnson for weeks.
I'm saying 14, but there's 14 teams still in the playoff show. They're going to have some good coaches available. You'll be able to find a coach. If you're either Mike McCarthy is your guy or is not. It has nothing to do with the other people.
But see, that's why I think there's more to it than just that. Just thumbs up or thumbs down on McCarthy. Like, what's the deal look like? How long is it? How much money? Does he have to give up play calling? Like, all that kind of stuff. Like, are they negotiating all that? And is there a point at which Jerry says, well, if he wants this, then I'm going to move on? Is there a point at which Mike McCarthy says, well, if he wants me to do this, then I'm going to move on? So I think that's what makes me think it's not as simple as thumbs up or thumbs down on McCarthy. Again, in Jerry's mind, I'm not saying it from the standpoint of this table.
You don't have to talk, though. Like, he doesn't. There's no requirement for the talk nearly as much as he does.
No, can we say this about Mike McCarthy too? Because Himbo sent me this stat. So when Mike McCarthy is with Dak Prescott, he is 36-22 and he's 29.5 points per game. His offenses put up points. Whether it was with Kellen, whether it was with him, however it is, he understands what it is. If you don't want him to be a play caller, you're telling him you don't want him to be a head coach.
Yeah.
That to me, that decision should have been made. Again, this is not a surprise. Right. I would understand that if they lost in the first round of the playoffs. They've been out of the playoffs for over a month. Right. You knew what the expect. You should have had those discussions long before this thing ended.
Absolutely. So let's move it forward then to another situation that I just mentioned briefly. Shefty broke the news on our show yesterday live that the Giants are keeping their head coach Brian Daboll and their GM Joe Shane, despite a 3-14 season in which they let Saquon Barkley go and he went to their arch rival and ran for 2,000 yards.
Great.
And the whole Daniel Jones, I can't say it with a straight face, I'm sorry, and then all the Daniel Jones stuff that happened. Here's the owner, John Mara, yesterday with the reporter Bruce Beck.
How long will it take to improve the product, John?
It better not take too long, Bruce, because I've just about run out of patience.
Bruce Beck is a very well-known sports anchor in New York. That did not sit well with you guys either. Why not?
You let go of the best player in your locker room, which you knew. You let go of your starting quarterback in the middle of the season and watch your team tank the way they did because you've taken all emphasis out of truly playing. And now you're talking about I'm losing patience. Like, patience was lost because guess what? Players don't get a chance to lose patience. We get fired. So the whole way his attitude about this has gone just shows me they're not ready to go win, man. It's not.
Is John Mara trying to seem cool or commiserate with the fans? 100%. Because this is very similar. It's slightly different because it's less embarrassing to what Jerry Jones just did. But this, again, speaks to your role as the owner and the leader of this team. What you need to, you lose the privilege to be, like, annoyed and to be fan guy once you become the owner of the team.
Right.
The things that you say matter, just like a CEO of a company. Those things impact the stock price. Him saying this, to me, is not supporting your coach. If you don't want him, fire him.
That's
hire
right.
somebody else and say, this is my guy, this is who's going to get it done.
Yeah.
But by saying this, what you are essentially saying, or what you're essentially doing is undercutting them and putting them in position next year that every single week they're going to be like, hey, is the patience up or not?
Yeah.
And the players are at home thinking, oh, our coach and our general manager are on thin ice. You don't get to be fun guy. You don't get to be annoyed. You have to say, look, I know when I made this decision, these are the right guys for the job. Right. We haven't gone the right path, but we had a conversation yesterday, whether you did or you didn't, and they presented to me a plan that I sincerely believe in, and you guys will see. I don't know about a timeline. I don't care how long it takes. I know they're the right guys. And then you can go home and tell your wife, man, I don't know about these idiots. But when you are on camera, this is called leadership. This is what you do. How's it so hard for people who have been running teams for a long time to understand that you don't get to be cutesy guy?
Right.
You don't get to. That's my job.
Yeah.
I just think it's reached a point where he doesn't, and I don't say this in an insulting way, but like he doesn't know what to do. Like he changed coach every 2 or 3 years. He doesn't want to be that guy, right? But he also, like, he hasn't gotten it right. You know, like I think he knows, like, Tom Coughlin was not hired by him. He was hired by his father, right? Like ever since then, they haven't been able to get it right. They haven't been able to have success. And he feels that. Like, it's not performative with him. He actually, like it means something to him. And it eats at him that it's become this terrible, irrelevant team the way it was in the 70s when he was a kid. Right? Like, he said that. He doesn't want to be like that. And that's where he is.
I respect that.
I feel like he's just doing like the George Costanza thing, right? Where he's like, I would normally fire these guys. I'm going to do the opposite.
But I'm going to do the problem with all of where he is he's now put his team in. They're going to go draft a quarterback, or they're going to go sign a quarterback. And now you have a lame coach and GM with a brand new quarterback. It's like the Chicago Bears. What do you expect? Unless you're doing exactly what Nick is saying, we're long term, we're going to do it the right way and figure this out. Now you've given them a short window to go produce. It makes no sense.
It's a mess.
By the way, PSLs ain't funny either. So
much more to do here.
Thanks a lot, Mara.
Are you paying attention to what's going on in Philadelphia? I'm going to give you one very big reason why the Eagles' flight to the Super Bowl could get grounded a lot sooner than you expect. That's on the way. Plus, does the man who always has the best answers have any solution to the nosedive his team is riding into this postseason? We'll answer that question, and we'll see if Graziano can answer this one. Here we go. What is the most common team versus team matchup on Wild Card Weekend, which dates back to 1978?
Oh, I like it.
Decent question.
I hate this question.
We'll debate whether we like the question or not, and then we'll see if he gets it right next.
Graz will get it. Graz gets it all.
The bold Louisiana flavor and crispy crunch of Popeye's signature chicken is the meal your craving deserves. And now you can get 3 pieces for just $5 and make it a meal for only $3 more.
Love that chicken from Popeyes. On a GLP-1, get Replenza. Nutritional support while on GLP-1s. Now you can look great and feel great while you lose weight. Replenza Daily Replenisher supports muscle recovery, digestive health, and skin elasticity. Replenza Daily Nutritional Supplement is enriched with vitamins and minerals, probiotics, and B-complex to support energy. Order now at ReplenzaLabs.com and get 33% off, plus free shipping. Get yours at ReplenzaLabs.com.
At Grainger, we know dealing with the unexpected is part of your job description, and we're here to help with professional-grade supplies plus same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I just found out I've been paying for 27 subscriptions. Yeah. It's like finding out you had 27 kids.
All right, here we go. The consensus in the room is we hate the question. We got Wild Card Weekend coming up. What is the most common team versus team matchup in this round of the playoffs, which dates back to 1978?
Yeah, I don't have it. I feel like wild card weekend questions a lot of times involve the Steelers. I feel like they always play on this weekend. I couldn't come up with the other team. I'm just going to guess 49ers, Packers, because they play in the playoffs.
My God, that's second. The answer is going to infuriate you.
Okay.
Because it's so random. It's the Eagles and the Buccaneers who met it, and they're not even meeting.
Year, right?
They're not even meeting this year. So, there's no connection to anything.
Hater!
Throw a challenge flag at him. That's a terrible question. Anyway.
He just wants to put up the scoreboard because he's not losing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's going to,
you know what? There you go.
Yeah. He's going to come out like Lee Corso once did and take a picture of the scoreboard.
Celebrating tying the game in the bottom of the first
inning. Live in a
inning.
moment in a time. All right, I'm throwing the challenge flag. All right, our next game is called Playoff Myth Busting. Graziano, this was your very good idea on ESPN.com. You busted a myth for every single playoff team. Let's start with the Lions. The myth was that Jared Goff is only great because of the greatness around him.
Yeah, it undersells Jared Goff's performance. He's sixth in total QBR this year. Completion percentage over expectation. He's only behind Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. Jared Goff has played well. They lean on him in big situations. He's got a great group around him. There's no question. That's not the only reason he's having success.
The next myth that you busted is in Green Bay, that they can't get to the Super Bowl because they can't beat the top teams in the NFC.
Yeah, this was, I got to say, Hembo was very helpful in this piece. He does a lot of the research for it. He did a whole thing on a history of Super Bowl teams that didn't do well against 11-win teams, right? The Packers went 0-5 against the Eagles, Lions, and Vikings. You can get there. Like the Giants of 07 were 0-4 in those games in the regular season and obviously beat the undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl. Packers played those games close. I wouldn't rule them out.
Okay, fair enough. I like that when you explain it. And then the last one, Saquon Barkley has been the difference maker between last season's Eagles and this season's Eagles. Why is that a myth?
Because the defense has been the difference between last season's Eagles and this season's Eagles. Saquon Barkley is brilliant, outstanding player, and has been huge for them. But the fact of the matter is, last year's offense, Eagles offense, ranked very similarly to this year's Eagles offense. The defense, not so much. Last season, the Eagles were 29th in defensive efficiency and 30th in defensive EPA. This season, they're first and second in those categories. That, to me, feels like a big jump. I don't know. From 30th to second?
Yeah. I would take it better if you weren't a Saquon hater, but you guys
I'm not a Saquon hater.
A little bit of a Saquon
hater. Inaccurate.
You're a Saquon diminisher.
Yeah.
I'm a realist.
It felt a little unusual to hear you say all those nice things about Saquon. I looked at Jeff, was like, what'd they do?
Ever.
Here's where I will agree with him. I think Saquon has been magnificent, and I think that his energy has sort of really helped. But I think if you had to name the most important person or addition on that team, it's Vic Fangio.
No question.
I would consider giving Vic Fangio the Coach of the Year award, even though he's not a head coach, because that team, they weren't just bad defensively. Like, even people like me who didn't play it or coach it could see they didn't look like they knew where to line up. Yeah. They didn't look like they cared. That defense splintered last year, and he has put together something special.
Yeah, he's got all the young players on that defense playing lights out, and he puts it. He challenges them, but makes things simple for them. He does a lot of really good things. He's been my coach, so I'm just telling you, it seems complicated at first, but once players figure it out, they love playing in their system. And if you play hard, you're gonna have some big numbers.
The young players are playing really well. The flexibility of their defense is impressive, and Vic Fangio deserves credit, but Howie Roseman deserves credit too, because he has the crazy draft philosophy of, are you big, are you fast? Yeah? And come on over here, you can play for us.
That's
right. It works out time and time again.
In the meantime, let's get to what really matters with the Eagles. I said to you earlier, could we be living in a world where their flight to the Super Bowl gets grounded a lot earlier than we are expecting? Jalen Hurts being in concussion protocol didn't get a lot of attention last week because since the Eagles were sitting so many people, we kind of overlooked the fact that Hurts wasn't playing. But he couldn't have played even if they wanted him to, and he's still in the protocol.
Still in the protocol. So the concussion protocol, return to play protocol is 5 steps. You have to clear them in order, and at each stage, you have to be reassessed to see if you had a recurrence of symptoms. And if you do, you go back to step 1. So right now, where is he in the concussion protocol? Like, they're not telling us. Obviously, they don't have to.
So they're not obligated to say what stage he's in.
But you can tell. Like, so he hasn't been on the field for practice, right? That stage 3 is maximum 30 minutes of light practice work with the team. If he gets that tomorrow, right, or if there's been a walkthrough that he was at their walkthrough Saturday, I don't know if he actually participated in it. If he gets on the field tomorrow and does anything at all, then that tells you he's moving through the process. Has not practiced since suffering that concussion against Washington on December 22nd. So it has not been, some people return in a week or two. His progression through the protocol has been slower than that.
Okay, so Eric, we're just going to live in this for a minute. We'll get to the Tyreek Hill stuff later, because I just have to ask this question.
Yeah.
I think we all expect him to play, because that's just we're conditioned to expect that sort of thing. But concussions are very unpredictable.
Absolutely.
So I'm asking you directly, if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, do the Eagles lose?
Ooh, a strong possibility. This Jalen Hurts, to me, is the loss of him would be a massive deal for the Eagles. Because of this, offensively, when they get to the red zone, on fourth down, like you brought up, he is the difference maker. The tush push, the zone read, the ability to move him out of the pocket and get the ball to AJ. All of those things matter for Jalen Hurts and the way the offense runs. As good as their defense is playing, you've got to put up points in the playoffs. He's going to have to be able to do that. It's a massive loss.
I think, it's a massive loss. I think they still win this game. Assuming Kenny Pickett's ribs feel good enough that he can actually play because of the defense. And I know you have to score in the playoffs, but the Packers are hobbled by some injuries also.
Watson,
they lost Watson, which does impact them greatly in the red zone. Their quarterback isn't 100% healthy, and this defense is really, really good. So I think they still have a chance. I still think they beat the Packers without Jalen. But I think the scariest part is before Jalen got hurt, we had issues with their passing game. Right. They seem to have rectified them.
They were like issues with their passing game.
Well, yeah, they had issues with their passing game, and they were happy with it. And then he goes away, and you don't improve the passing game by not passing. So we'll see how things work out when he comes back.
And let me the difference between sitting players and a player being out for concussion, he's not getting any tempo, rhythm, any movement. And to Dan's point, that means he can't go out and just play toss either. Like there are rules that allow him or don't allow him to get out there and continue to work. Timing matters, especially in the playoffs. You got to get him back on the practice.
If you look at the bottom of that screen, our analytics give the Eagles only a 51% chance to win this game. That is essentially a toss-up. It would equate to a half a point favorite. So this is going to get very interesting as the week goes on. Meanwhile, as we continue, we'll stay in the same state. Mike Tomlin's team is in a free fall. What if he doesn't have the solution to save their season? Could the unthinkable happen in Pittsburgh? We'll talk about it next.
Who knows what tomorrow will bring? But as for me, I'll wait and see. Maybe it'll bring my love to me. Who knows? Who knows?
Have you ever dreamt of getting 2 of your fave Wendy's items for $7? Like a spicy chicken sandwich, hot and juicy Dave's single, or 10-piece nugs? Well, today's the day your oddly specific dream comes true. Which combination did you dream about? Dave's single and a 10-piece nug? Or a classic chicken sandwich and a spicy chicken sandwich? It was 2 10-piece nugs, wasn't it? Classic. 2 faves for just $7? Gotta be Wendy's.
Upset stomach? Iberogast. Indigestion? Iberogast. Bloating? Iberogast. Thanks to a unique combination of herbs, Iberogast helps relieve 6 digestive symptoms to help you feel better. 6 digestive symptoms, the power of nature. Iberogast.
Living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis often means spending hours at an infusion center. Envision being able to self-inject your treatment at home. With Zinfentra, your infliximab maintenance treatment can be managed in the comfort of your own home. This is a shift that can make a difference.
Zinfentra is the only self-injectable infliximab maintenance treatment for adults with moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Zinfentra can lower your ability to fight infections, serious infections, cancers, blood, liver, and nervous system issues, severe allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Ask your doctor if Zinfentra is right for you.
Dad,
Are you certain this is going to work?
Nothing to it.
Are you for imprint certain?
I think they're going to be one and done. I think I'm going to maybe pick them to beat the Bucks this week. So my answer is somewhere in between, but I understand we have to rhyme it. So I will say Super Bowl run, even though I don't really expect them to get to the Super Bowl. I don't think the Commanders are one and done.
Oh, I love that Graziano plays along with the game. Neek, the LA Rams, one and done or Super Bowl run?
Graz didn't play along with the game. He just pulled back the curtain. So I say they're one and done. There's no chance that they make a Super Bowl run. They're going up against the Minnesota Vikings are coming into their place with a much more talented team and a team that's played better. Although the Rams have beat them earlier in the season, that's how you play the game, Graz.
Jeff, next. Steelers, one and done or Super Bowl run?
I'm going one or done. What do we call it? You call it tumbling through the season?
Tumbling, yeah.
And then they're going to tumble them into playoffs. So I'm just going to keep it consistent all the way. What are you wowing? It's not an insult.
I mean, it is an insult. It is an insult.
It's not.
It's an insult.
He's taking a very average team to the playoffs that aren't as good as the team they're playing. They're playing the Ravens, your favorite team.
So why is it tumbling when he loses?
Because he's overperformed in the regular season to give you hope that's going to get crushed in the postseason because his team's not that good.
I just feel like you're just too negative a person. I think that's the problem.
I love
you. Let's live in this. So we don't have to play the Shefty again. We played it earlier. Shefty on Sunday NFL Countdown, when he was doing his spiel about all the different coaches, who's in, who's out, who's going to get fired, who's not, he mentioned, and it got buried because there was all this immediate stuff, that he believes there will be teams that are going to call the Steelers to check on whether or not they would be willing to trade Mike Tomlin, which we have seen happen before. Coaches have been traded before. Mike Tomlin has been the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers for 18 years. He's going to the Hall of Fame. I think it is inarguable that he has done an outstanding job there. However, there is no greater discrepancy, in my opinion, having been around this a long time, and I used to host a radio show, so you deal a lot in the local media when you do that stuff. There's no greater discrepancy than there is between the way the national media, people like us, perceive Mike Tomlin and the way the local people in Pittsburgh perceive Mike Tomlin. Yeah. The Steeler fans are ready to move on. They do not think he's a great coach. They do not. That is the way they view it. And I don't think it would be extraordinarily unpopular locally if the Steelers did entertain that possibility. Again, to be clear, I'm not on that side. I'm just presenting that side.
Thank you for not being on.
What do you think of it?
It's craziness. People are too close to it if they believe that. That's why I said, Tom, he's taking teams that aren't as good as the other teams to the playoffs consistently. Are they losing the playoffs? Yeah, because they face better teams. They're usually a bottom seed. I think the last time they were a higher seed was when they were 11-0 or 11-1 or whatever it was, and they ended. But other than that, he's taking average teams and making the most of them. That's what you want out of your head coach. Unfortunately, they haven't been good enough. That doesn't just fall to the head coach. The team as itself hasn't been there.
Obviously, I agree with you guys. But, I mean, to try my best to put some logic behind what the fans are saying is, or what some of the fans might feel is, the point is winning a championship.
Right.
Like, I think many of the fans would trade half or all of those over 500 seasons for a deep run in the playoffs, a shot at a Super Bowl. So I think they would rather have the big ring than all this other stuff. And they don't feel like there's a future. Like they don't, it doesn't seem like, oh, we're right there, because they are always right there, but they're always right there without the expectation that they're going to get the step above, and whether that's on Tomlin or not. And so while I think you're right, it might be popular locally, you know where it would be more popular? Everywhere else in the league would be so excited that Mike Tomlin was available.
Yeah, I think there are coaching situations that aren't open that might open if Mike Tomlin became available. He's that well regarded, and for good reason. The Steelers always win at least as many games as they should, right? Like, given their talent level. Now, would you like to have a better roster, and then maybe he can elevate that to a Super Bowl contender? You know, he does have a Super Bowl title. He went to another one. So it's not like he can't or never has done that. The fans, I think, you know, they want to win championships. You know, be careful what you wish for, right? Like the Giants won a Super Bowl 13 years ago, and, you know, you'd trade the Giants last 13 years for the Steelers last 13 years, even though they're both title free. So it's degrees of a thing. I remember, look, I mean, it got to a point in Philadelphia where they were done with Andy Reid. Like it wasn't going to happen there for him. And obviously, you know, the Chiefs hired him 4 days later, and the rest is history. So you do get to that point. I don't think the Steelers organization is anywhere near that point. And I think that's what's important to underline.
I think the problem, though, for me is when you're talking about the Doug Petersons of the world and the Andy Reeds of the world, they felt like their team, their roster was good enough to continue to win, and
right.
the coaches weren't getting them there. I would say it's the opposite in Pittsburgh. They haven't had a very good offensive line. They had Kenny Pickett. Now, if you're assigning that to Tomlin, then I'm with you. I agree. Okay, if you think that he's been in charge of those things
right.
and he hasn't been able to meet the mark, then that's a conversation we can have. But as far as on the field coaching, I mean, I didn't love the Russell Wilson and the no timeout late in the last game, but other than he doesn't make a lot of errors that put his team behind the 8 ball. In my opinion, it's talking two different conversations.
Let me play RC for you guys. So Ryan Clark was talking about this, and RC, of course, played for Mike Tomlin, won a championship with Mike Tomlin, and I can tell you, loves Mike Tomlin. This is what RC said about it.
And as much as we love Mike Tomlin, we have to be honest. It is year after year of showing promise, of giving hope, and then falling flat early on in the playoffs. There has to be some change in that pattern.
So is the change, we need to get a better quarterback? At the end of the day, I mean, they won like crazy when they had Ben Roethlisberger when he was still at or near his peak, and it has fallen off since then. They've been just good enough to sneak into the playoffs since then with a diminished Ben Roethlisberger. Then they go to Kenny Pickett, and now they got two quarterbacks.
Rudolph and,
quite candidly,
somebody.
They're playing this season with two quarterbacks that nobody wanted. That is a legitimate right. That's a literal statement.
For minimal cost because both, everybody else was done with them. Yes.
And the defense continues to play. Well, they haven't been as great late in the season, but they're very good, and that's been the driving force. The style in which they play is not a way that we feel great about winning a championship, but they have to play that style because they are shorthanded as far as talent.
Win, right.
Like their best offensive player is Pickens, and he's not someone that you feel like you can rely on week in and week out.
I mean, like catching it.
I feel the need to ask one more question. I believe he's been there 18 seasons.
Yes.
That is an extraordinarily long run in American sports now, under any circumstances. Now, the Steelers are a unique situation. They've had three coaches since 1969. I get it, right? Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin, literally going back to the last time the Jets won the Super Bowl. That's how long it's been that way. But is there anything to be said?
The answer is no.
Just for a change of face, a change of voice. Mike Tomlin would get another job the next day. We get it and all that. Is there anything to be said for that?
That means that you've lost the locker room in some way, or you feel like you're not connecting. Change just for the sake of change, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
If you're saying like, man, his message has gotten old, it doesn't feel that way. And you go through the history of the success that he's had, and with particular players, he's had success with really unique personalities and achieved high.
And they're not.
I'm trying to be nice.
They're not winning fewer games than expectation. I think that's the part that I understand the fans' frustration in those Super Bowl. But if you're winning 4 games a year and you're supposed to be winning 10, I get it. It's done the opposite. I think that goes more to coaching. It's just a tough call. I get that Super Bowl conversation, but man, his teams ain't good enough to win Super Bowl.
In the meantime, I always say no one says words better than Mike Tomlin does. And speaking of words, let's do the most dangerous ones in all of television. Dominique has a couple of things that have caught his attention.
Y'all better shut your damn face. Damn, that dude is cool right there. I give 0 fucks. He does not give a damn. No! Get that big fella.
I get scared every time I'm going to say it because I'm country and I might say the wrong thing.
0 socks. Yes. I'm glad 0 fox is alive for another week. Lucky me.
All right, here we go. The most anxious alliteration in all of broadcasting. It is time for Neek and 0 Fox.
All right.
Given.
There's only one place to start with this particular one. The man who gave 0 Fox.
Oh, yes!
There's nothing to be said for Michael Pierce. Look at this. Watch this.
It's going to happen.
I think he fell twice. He looked at that field. He couldn't wait to get that.
Hey, let's just talk about this. He slides like some of them quarterbacks slides. That's an awful slide. My man never played baseball. Come on, Pierce. You're a better athlete than that right there. Come on.
I love to play, but nothing would have been better than the anticipation.
To run back?
Yeah, come on, running. He gives 0 Fox about our happiness.
You're winning by like 30 points.
He said he was scared to give it up.
Next up, the season's over. Nothing matters. You know who gives 0 Fox about that? Bryce Young.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing touchdowns all over the place. He's changed. I don't know that I can think of another quarterback that's had a comeback like this. He's running it. He's throwing it. He's showing off in Carolina doing Steph Curry-esque plays in the back of the end zone. This is my favorite part. Turn around on them fools. They don't give a damn. I love it. This is such a great story. It's so fun to see him playing well, and this team has a really bright future.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, in Dallas, you only got one good player, and it's your kicker. And if he is taken out...
No, I didn't even see that.
All right. So I understand that you guys are watching this and you think this is probably a mistake. No, Brandon Aubrey is incredible. You see how bad a kick that is? That was intentional. I assume that she is out of concussion protocol by now. Maybe not, because Brandon Aubrey gets zero fox about the legendary Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
I don't know how I missed that.
You didn't even see
that was.
Oh my God!
The camera dude right there he just turned to make sure he didn't trying to knock the ball down.
It's every man for himself on that sideline. She's got her back to it.
Oh, he did. He tried. He tried.
He tipped it.
Oh God, no. Is that Brandon moonlighting?
Coming up, those are the zero fox. Coming up, Mike McCarthy's musical chairs. Do the Bears want him? Is he the right head coach for Caleb Williams? Does he give zero fox whether Jerry wants him back or not? We'll talk about it next.
Sure. Nobody knows.
Mueller changed his X profile to this, which, to be clear, in case anyone doesn't know, that's him photoshopping his face on the body of Antonio Brown on that legendary day where Antonio Brown took himself out of the NFL in a very unique manner. With Tyreek perhaps on the market, Micah Parsons wasted no time being the first to make a sales pitch, tweeting at Cheetah, "We can be the fastest duo in the league. We also don't have state income taxes."
Like it.
For the record, they don't have those in Florida either, but that's neither here nor there. He might have meant also in that regard. What do we think?
He must not have been watching the last off season with the Cowboys. I don't think making a big splash wide receiver signing is on the menu.
They can't even sign their own. They ain't sure going out and finding another one in Cowboy land.
Keep dreaming there, Micah.
Yeah.
Does he remember that Antonio Brown wasn't saying bye to the team that he was on?
Right.
He was saying peace to the whole league. Yeah. So I'm not sure that that's the reference that you want to make, but if you want to get out of town, I think that it hasn't worked out there for that team, so they might be ready to move on and get what they can get.
What Orlovsky said yesterday, and I sort of agree, is you're not allowed to leave the winner for the money and then complain that we're not winning. You know what I mean? Like you're in Kansas City. They offered you a lot of money. Right. You decided to take some risk.
I disagree with Orlovsky and you.
Yeah. I don't know what Dan's talking about. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. He went and made a lot of money, and he'll go back. He'll go back to another.
And they made the playoffs. He said this is the first year he's ever not made the playoffs in his career.
Inherent in what you guys are saying is, I'm getting paid, but we plan to lose. Like, no. People who are getting paid believe that they are still going to lose. And so if they lose, then they are upset and surprised by it. So I think that you can ask for the money and also expect to win. So it's unfortunate it's not working out.
The Dolphins aren't not good because of him. The kid can.
No one is saying that. I guess my point is, like, he was in Kansas City. I mean, the winning was plentiful and figured to stay that way.
Sure.
One way or another. Who knows? If you didn't like it, then blame Dan. Okay. Now let's get back to this story here. The Mike McCarthy thing continues to be the most confounding thing in the world. A bunch of teams in the league have come out and said, we are keeping our guys. A few others have fired them. And then there are the Dallas Cowboys, who've done nothing when it comes to Mike McCarthy, even though his contract expires tomorrow. The Bears have requested an interview with him. Jerry Jones said, well, if he wants to go talk to other people, I guess he can. Meanwhile, McCarthy himself said this.
I'll just be clear. I'm a winner. I know how to win. I've won a championship. I won a championship in this building, and that's who I am. So, and we'll see where it goes.
To be clear, that was on Sunday after their final game when he was being asked about his future. The idea that he is in this limbo strikes us all as just absolutely ridiculous, right? This is the most important decision you make as an NFL owner, and Jerry Jones is just deciding not to make it, to allow circumstances beyond his control to come in and play a factor here. It is so performative, it drives you nuts.
The most amazing thing about the way that Jerry Jones has handled it is he's handled it so poorly that he got me caping for Mike McCarthy. Like, the reason why Mike McCarthy was brought in there was to get over the hump that they couldn't get over. They haven't gotten over it.
Correct.
So moving on from Mike McCarthy is completely justifiable. But the way that Jerry is doing this, where he is like slowly undercutting any credibility that Mike McCarthy has throughout his tenure there, and then holding him accountable for them not even fully holding him accountable. It's just horrible, horrible leadership.
Let's think it through, Jeff. Let's think it through, okay? So in the cases of, in some places, you were just making the point, some owners felt the need to come out and say, we're bringing our coach back, even though they're under contract. So you're not really obligated to say that.
Correct.
You just want to quiet the noise. In this very unique case, Mike McCarthy's contract actually expires. So Jerry Jones has to make a decision.
Yeah.
What exactly is he waiting for? This is an incredibly important decision. We've all known it was coming. We've all known the date was coming. What is he waiting to see happen before he makes up his mind?
This is a man who signed his quarterback to an extension on the morning of the first game this season. Like, he likes going right up to the deadline on this stuff. And it may be that he thinks, and again, speculating here, I can't get into the mind of a billionaire. I think he thinks that, you know, if I can play around with this, then maybe I'll get a better deal out of it. I don't know what.
Meaning a better coach, or get him for less money?
Or maybe get him for less money. You know, But
in order to do that, you have to start interviewing other coaches, right?
In theory.
No.
Or you can go out publicly and sort of say, if he wants to leave, then let him leave. Like
no, I mean, I don't think you have to. I think this is the move where you tell your player to go see what you can get elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then they find out they can't get anything else, and then they come back. And that's not something that you want to do to a leader of your team. It's terrible.
Yeah, this is not the, hey, I'm going to let him go test free agency conversation. When you're talking about your head coach who's supposed to provide stability and direction for your team, and then your players around it develop a culture based on that, what Jerry Jones is, again, is he's weakening his team. And when you think about Mike McCarthy having to get up there and go, I'm a winner, his owner should be coming out and saying that, hey, he's won this. We didn't get it done this year. We didn't have to protect your guys. Don't put them out there to fight and fend for themselves. It makes absolutely no sense.
To be fair, Jerry Jones has come out and said that stuff about Mike McCarthy. He just hasn't extended his contract. Right? So it's like, put your money where your mouth is, right? Like,
if
you really
continue to say it. They want to interview my guy? Hell no, they're not interviewing my guy.
That's what I'm
I'm giving him money right now because he's my guy and I know he's the right person. I made a joke a few years ago that I think Jerry Jones is generally managing a reality show, not a team. Yeah. And all that he's done until then is consistently support that to the point now where it feels like it's not a joke. The things that he does for this team often are entertaining and interesting to talk about. They're so rarely beneficial to the success of this team.
For him to sound as though he is somewhat put off by the fact that Mike McCarthy would be interested in interviewing in other places when he has no certainty whatsoever that he has a job and would like to go find one, that doesn't sit well. Obviously, that can't sit well with McCarthy. It doesn't sit well with anyone who's paying attention to it. Why are you laughing?
Because there's a show on Netflix called The Ultimatum, and it feels like that Jerry and Mike McCarthy need to go on there where these two guys or two people dating each other show up on the show, and it's like, either we get married now or I'm not going to go with you. So right now, Mike McCarthy's on a date with
with who? I mean,
with the Bears.
Mike McCarthy's on a date with the Bears, but who's Jerry Jones on a date with?
His money.
He needs a coach.
Let me just say this: the fact that an owner of an NFL team would be trying to negotiate with a coach for a little bit better deal is absolutely absurd. The guy has been in your building 5 years. This is the certainty of your season has been exacted since 6 weeks ago. There's no surprising that you would try to save a couple bucks on your head coach is an embarrassment. Again, that means he's not the guy for you. Move on.
Right. No salary cap on coaches.
Give me a break. That is such
trying to make sense of the situation. Like, what do we know about Jerry? Just kind of trying to, put two and two together here. I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to do.
I'm going to tell you, all owners that have come out, no sense has been laid by any owner. Mara, Irsay, Jerry Jones, all this is just comedy. It's comedy. There's a lot to talk about, though.
Chad Kahn made me laugh, though, when he said, when he said about Trevor Lawrence that we're not having an Aaron Rodgers 2.0 situation out here when they asked Trevor Lawrence if Trevor Lawrence was going to be involved in the decision-making process. That was great. That owner, solid joke.
It worked out really well for them. Tonight, Blue Flag and number 4 Duke highlight our ACC men's basketball matchup. The Blue Devils hosting Pitt at 7 Eastern on ESPN and the app. Coming up, First Take. They're right back on this topic. Is Mike McCarthy the right coach for Caleb Williams? Plus, what can Russ do Saturday night to save his starting job? First Take, Molly, Stephen A., Shannon, Jeff, and more. Top of the hour here on ESPN.